Hi, and welcome to my presentation of my minor investigation that concerns language awareness. Before I start this presentation, I just want to let you know that this minor investigation was not what I initially did. I actually did an investigation on Combooks that where the purpose was to analyze students' oral national tests and their interaction between each other. However, when I analyzed the data, I couldn't really find a clear connection to the course literature, so I felt that I had to redo it. And thanks to my supervisor, I actually got the opportunity to return back to Poly, and this time to the upper secondary school. The class where I did my investigation was it was a very homogeneous class in that sense that they have very similar backgrounds, similar experiences with school, and they are low proficient in English. And also, there are 31 students in that class, but not all of them participated in this investigation. The purpose of the investigation was to investigate if students gain language awareness through the use of direct, indirect, and meta-linguistic feedback. Furthermore, the actual investigation I did during 2 Tuesday mornings, where my supervisor has a voluntary lesson that concerns grammar. So the problem was that I wasn't really sure how many of the students that would participate in the investigation. But in the end, 8 of the students did participate in the investigation. And on that lesson, the focus was on grammar. And I talked with my supervisor, and we agreed on focusing on capitalization and subject-verb agreement. And as I said before, the students received direct, indirect, and meta-linguistic feedback. And it was both focused and unfocused feedback, which I will return to in just 1 minute. Furthermore, the theory that I used during my analysis was Rod Ellis' typology on written texts and how to give corrective feedback on linguistic errors. And there are 3 ways of giving feedback, corrective feedback. The first one is direct, where the teacher simply gives the student the right answer. And the second one is indirect feedback, which means that the teacher indicates that there is an error or several errors, but the teacher doesn't provide the student with the correct answer. And in my investigation, I used underlining. And the third alternative is to give meta-linguistic corrective feedback, which means that the teacher gives a hint or a clue on what the error might be, but doesn't give the right answer. And for this investigation, I used CAP and SV as my metalinguistic hint. Furthermore, onto the actual procedure. So on the first Tuesday lesson, I gave them instructions and I provided them with information on the actual grammar rules. Very simple, because as I said before, I didn't say it before, but they were very self-conscious and they have low confidence surrounding language in general. So I kept it very simple. Then they also got the opportunity to do an exercise on capitalization and subject-verb agreements. Furthermore, I thought it was very important also for them to understand the meta-linguistic feedback they received, if they received any. So I simply explained the use of meta-linguistic feedback I was going to give. The actual execution was that they had done a city tour, Malmö city tour, in another subject actually prior to this lesson. And the instruction was for them to write a very short text on Malmö's history and what Malmö's history meant for them and for their identity. And during the second lesson, the instructions were for them to just revise the text, read the feedback, revise the text, and then hand it in again. On to the results. I've just chosen 3 examples. I had, as I said, 8 students, where 3 of them, they got direct feedback, 2 of them indirect, and 3 of them meta-linguistic feedback. But this is the first example of a student who got unfocused direct feedback. And unfocused in this sense means that I highlighted or I gave them right answer on not just capitalization and subject-verb, agreement or disagreement. I gave them the right answer to all of the errors in their texts, which could be quite confusing, I realized in the end. And here you can see the results. We have errors both concerning capitalization, however, not subject-verb agreement, disagreement or agreement. And all of the comments were acted upon. It was simply for the students to copy-paste my comments. Second example was from a student that got unfocused, just like the previous student, but indirect feedback. And here, as I said, I used underlining, but that didn't work in this presentation program. And this, sadly, but this student didn't revise his paper. I don't really know why. I can't say why, because it might be due to the fact that I did give unfocused and indirect feedback, but it might also be because the lesson was voluntary, the second lesson as well. So he might be occupied with something else. So I can't really analyze this. However, this was the procedure. And the third example was from a student that got focused meta-linguistic feedback. So I only commented on the actual rules that I had gone through before. So capitalization and subject-verb. And this student had a problem with capitalization, as you can see in the text, and also subject-verb. So I did comment on that, and all of the comments were acted upon. And there were also other mistakes in the text, but I didn't correct them. However, during the second lesson, I did discuss this matter with him, and he was very keen to learn more and wanted to get more feedback on his text. Well, we're very close to the end now. I actually got the opportunity as well to talk with some of the students during the second lesson, and I talked with them, sadly, in Swedish because they are not comfortable in speaking English. And the first student that got direct feedback said that when I asked him, what did you gain from this? His answer was, I always forget to capitalize I, as in jag, but I learned that I have to remember it. So it feels like a case of remembrance. Otherwise, I didn't really learn so much from writing so short texts, and I didn't like the topic. And the second response was from a student that received the meta-linguistic feedback. And the response,